I'm still trying to figure out how fast my sorting system is. It seems to be spitting better numbers than quicksort. I don't know. I need more science. I need more people to test this thing. So I will show you step by step how my sorting system is supposed to work, the theory of where numbers go and what happens exactly. And yes, it's Swifty Sort, guys. It will have a name. It's not bucket sort. It's not related to anything. But it uses insertion sort in the end. Because insertion sort likes when the array is relatively clean. Right? It's relatively arranged already. So insertion sort basically is being used to negate all these like little curves and get us a smooth line, as you well know.
Partially sorted array.
That last thing, man, dude, where's that, bro? Yeah, so you probably would have a little bit rugged edges after my sorting system, and then insertion sort can figure things out from there, because it does that very, very well. I call it Swifty Sort to troll people, but at the same time, it's fast, bro. It's fucking fast, and it has to be recognized as its own unique sorting system. But it contains lists. If you don't know what that is, because I don't really know, the weird part about lists and the difference between array and list is that you can insert anything you want. Now, funny, with insertion sort, with this, you can insert a value between other two values. You know, you can force an empty spot, which is very important. I will explain why. So I hope you're ready. We're gonna look at this an example. I'll show you an example basically. But first, I'm gonna sit through, you know, counting sort. I want to watch the whole video. But it's very inspiring of, like, you know, how coherent the dude is. Because he was able to explain counting sort. Other people couldn't do that. They just mess my brain up, it seems. But it's just a very simple thing where you know what available elements are. So you just count how many of them you have and recreate the array. This very basic shit. So I love how progressive and cool this video is, right? Just does that. This is the name of the video.
And then if you think about 64...
Yeah. He explains that counting sort requires a ridiculous amount of memory and all that shit. I don't need much memory, first of all. Again, let's recreate. There's going to be an initial array. There's going to be a pool. So let's call it pool. Pool is filled with zeros. I use 1,000, 10,000 zeros, about that much water in there. Then we drain the pool and remove all the zeros. And then we have a relatively sorted array that we use insertion sort for. Now, the way you put things in the pool is pretty simple, right? You need to know the range of minimum and maximum value, basically. If you know, you will relatively know where the number is supposed to go. But there's the thing hotspots, alright? If you're just using this much space to dump most of the numbers, you probably want to stretch that space out a little bit, which will require a little bit more complex math in that sense. But you can stretch data sets fairly simply, right? You can take these things and be like, okay, I'm going to chop this, stretch this out, because we're not using this space efficiently, so, you know. In case you want to, but you still have to relatively know what data set you're working with. And this thing can still be automated. This thing can still detect data sets of how they look like. And it's, you know, it can be enhanced by AI, for example. AI can figure shit out, and all of a sudden get to know your data set first of all, and then figure out how to deal with hotspots if there are any, and then do the rest of the sorting accordingly. I don't know why the meme started at the first part when I made the video, but everyone is like, oh, bucket sort. But I did not have to mention a single bucket. The reason why I would want to mention buckets because they're very similar to ranges. So you could say these are 3 different buckets with different data because we split data into 3 pieces and we're going to stretch this thing. But it doesn't make sense to call it a bucket. So, and this is definitely not bucket sort. Just to say one more time. We're going to see a bucket sort in this video.
Is Radix sort with bucket unsorted?
So, when people introduced Radix sort to me in the comments, I'm like, why the fuck would you care about the least important digit? And then someone pointed out there's most significant digits Radix sorts, which is like, whoa, okay, that's where we should be going. But even that is kind of awkward. Again, when it comes to math, doing math, moving objects is a tough deal, but doing math is something computers do pretty easily, I imagine. That's the whole point. But when dealing data, accessing data, replacing data, removing data, like that's a little bit of more work.
Digit is 7. So what we would do into the 7.
It seems like a Radix sort the way it was introduced to me. So I don't understand. It feels mixed. Like the bucket sort feel. Why the last digit, right? Like what? Bucket sort feels like it would already use this most significant digit of like you have buckets that are ready to suck in numbers that have specific values. In this case, there are no real separations. You just relatively feel where the value is supposed to go and put it in there, right? And the array is going to move around, or the list is going to move around, and it makes it unstable a little bit. But all this instability is going to be fixed by insertion sort in the end, right? All those little tiny errors of things crossing over when they shouldn't.
We'll go into the 5.
So yeah, to me, this looks like cringe. This is not intuitive. What are we going to do next, guys?
Is to collect up all of our items from the buckets and rebuild our array bucket. Well, there's no.
And it just keeps doing that, and it's like, it seems so complicated, actually. Because what was the point? The normal bucket sort would just take most significant digit, then sort every single bucket individually. And here you have it. You can recreate the damn thing. So it's just wrong.
Actually,
This is a very interesting part.
lists in this particular situation is that linked lists actually require a lot of memory allocation and deallocation. When you add and remove items, you've often got to allocate and deallocate memory, and that's going to be really slow. The other thing about linked lists is that every element in the list actually requires the data as well as a pointer to the next element. So you would also find that you might be taking up a lot of extra RAM. Thankfully,
I mean, it's interesting clues about how list works, and yeah, pointers, that's kind of cool. But it's just a little bit of crumb on the floor. I still don't have much clue about lists.
thankfully to do this. So let's have a bit of a look at how to implement a Radix sort using an absolutely marvelous trick. 10.
So Radix sort can use bucket sort, which is terrible, but it could also use counting sort.
We will
Let's
see
see
the
it.
entire array. We had 0 elements and
So also takes the ends and counts were how many.
ending with 2 elements ended with a 1 to whatever.
Again, you must understand how confused I am. My Swifty sort is so simple, anyone can understand. Even a Swifty can understand, bro. I swear. It's the simplest thing to learn. And it's incredibly fast. Incredibly fast. It might be the fastest in the world. It might be the fastest in the world in terms of implementation, learning. It's like crazy, bro. And yet we have this?
The sum is so far. So the sum,
Because not only we've taken the lowest value, we're also just doing these sums and all this unnecessary shit, it seems.
Here, but if you think about what we've got just here, that
Brain damage? I'm already taking brain damage.
to where 721
Yes, thank you. Now we have made so much progress.
sort using counting sort, so we've got to clear our counts back to 0, ready for the next round.
Ready for the next round, bro? It looks pretty good. I would want to build this and compare, but nah. It also looks extremely complicated.
Odd.
I don't want to do science. I have things to do. I already have a life. This is why I encourage people to participate in this whole shenanigan, because you can get something out of it. You know, you can contribute in being a Swifty, guys. In swiftly doing something useful through the comments, through your own work. You can upload your own videos. As long as you call it SWIFTIE SORT, I will not be offended. All that shit. Try and figure out how good my sorting system is. Try to jump in and be a part of the community. If you don't like it, don't bother. Alright? You might just get blocked. I don't know.
Has an 11.
Because if people resort into disrespecting me, I mean, there's only one response. So he took like 6 minutes to explain where things are going in the sorting system, and I probably will take like half of the time. You have your array, and yes, most significant digit will matter because your range is clearly between 1 and 1000, and even maybe not even 1. Because we're literally not using anything up to 160, right? So you can actually even determine the range from 160 to 1000, then figure out where relatively your number drops. So 163 drops over here, 166 drops over here. You can, with your mind, you're doing this. You're sorting with your mind already. This is how you would do on a piece of paper. And this is literally how you deal with a computer. You take a list, there's a lot of empty space, there's a blank sheet of paper, basically, and the computer would do exactly the same thing as you. Now, 3 would go over here, so we have to be a little bit more precise, right, when sending these numbers. And again, because this is a list, I can insert an element. It's not going to be a big deal, hopefully. Or at least it's very easy to learn. And just changing pointers, I don't think it's a big deal, to be honest. That's how list works. So send this over here. This one's fairly close over here. This one's also fairly close. Maybe I need a smaller... We're not sending these into particular buckets. We're sending these into particular places in the array, because we relatively know where they're supposed to go. So, that's almost a half. A half point over here. I'll start changing colors too. This and that over here. You can tell, like, I'm looking just like a normal human being looking off, like, I will be sending this in particular places, but let's not do that. Let's do it this direction, right? Let's not just be like, oh, this goes here and that goes... Because I'm sorting things automatically at this point. Instead, let's pick relative positions, right? So this would relatively be 1, 2. Let's split this thing into pieces, and we will know. That's a half. That's pretty good. We will generally know where to send things. Right. This goes over here. Like, this is the dumbest thing at this point. It's too easy. We have made things easy, finally. In the half position. And again, things, because there's enough space for things to go, it's going to be relatively sorted. Sometimes entirely sorted. Just by doing this. As long as you don't have that many elements and you have lots of water, so nothing moves around. every time you insert an element, things move around, right? So if you put many things in here, you can create a hotspot that will expand this place, and it will kind of bleed into this. There's a bleed, basically. So we'll start eating away other ranges of numbers. So it will eat this range and that range, and when you're inserting numbers here, you will actually fail to do that, because even though you're supposed to go here, it's already taken by other numbers. You know, the territory has been claimed. That's the problem with hotspots, the biggest problem, and that's where the errors come, where the numbers cross over into each other's territories, basically. But you can only, like, push the numbers, right? You're pushing the numbers. You will still relatively go into the correct position, right? Everything will still try to turn into a line, an incremental line with a few errors in there to fix with insertion sort. It's just brilliant, I would say. It's almost like shit, fucking hidden knowledge. Purposely hidden, but that's just how we do it. It goes on the nose. It's 806. This one is that. The only question I have is how much will this change computing? Because it has to. Or what the actual problem with this is. Because people still are not familiar with this. No way they are. They cannot properly identify what this is. So yeah, we just send things, and then if we read, well, unfortunately, I can't read this shit. I just show you the progress. So the next thing is to remove all the water, all the empty space, and then we're just gonna have the same, 15 elements arranged and double-checked with insertion sort. Just double-checking what has to be swapped, if anything at all.
Number belong.
Just way too much is in here. Way too much hassle and unintuitive movements of like, yeah, I understand you count things and you remove things. But even that's a little, well, you double read the array. And you needed to add these numbers together to know where they're gonna go. It's kind of interesting thing to learn. Absolutely. I don't know if it's relevant in my thing. Surely there's even ways to optimize this, but mostly you're just dealing with the enemy. Alright? The enemy of my Swiftie sort. A person asked of like, what happens if you have like one small value and then a bunch of big values? Well, you gotta fucking kill that. You gotta send it to the start of the array. In that prison cell, where everyone else is gonna enjoy a normal range. But again, this is why you have to split things into decent ranges and see the anomalies as well. This is an anomaly. If there's just one value, it's an anomaly. It's not even defining the minimum and maximum range at all. So you have to also detect anomalies. It's cool. Fighting hotspots is a whole nother fucking let's play to come out. But for now, that's just how it goes. Alright, hopefully everyone understands now. Any questions? Bruh? Isn't that the coolest sorting system? And the easiest one to learn? Isn't it?